my name is Megan. I am 30 years old. I am telling you my story from a very big house. The windows are tall. The floors are shiny marble. From the outside, it looks like a perfect life. I have a rich husband. I have beautiful clothes. I can buy anything I want. But I am not happy. I am the opposite of happy. I am filled with a deep, quiet sadness. This sadness is my constant companion. It sits with me in these big, empty rooms. I made a mistake, a very big mistake. It was the biggest mistake of my life. I think about it every single day. I think about it every night when I lie alone in a huge, cold bed. The mistake was a choice I made. I chose money over love. I left a good, kind man because he was poor. And I married a rich man. Now I have everything. And I have nothing at all. This is my story of regret. Let me tell you about the man I left. His name was Leo. Just saying his name now makes my heart hurt. It is a gentle pain, a memory of something wonderful that I lost. Leo was not a rich man. He did not wear fancy suits or drive a fast car. He was a simple man. He was a carpenter. He worked with wood. His workshop was small and always smelled of sawdust and fresh timber. It was a happy smell. He made beautiful things, strong tables, smooth chairs, and sometimes little wooden animals for the neighborhood children. His hands were rough from his work. They had calluses and small scars. But his touch was the gentlest thing I have ever known. His heart was soft. He was kind to everyone. To me, to animals, to strangers. His kindness was like the sun. It warmed everyone near him. We lived together in a small apartment on the 3rd floor of an old building. The paint was peeling in some places. The pipes made strange noises at night. It was not a perfect place, but it was our home, and it was full of light, not just sunlight from the big window in the living room. It was full of the light of our happiness. It was full of our laughter. We did not have a lot of money. We had to be very careful with every dollar. I worked as a waitress, and he sold his furniture. Some weeks were good. Some weeks were hard. Sometimes, for dinner, we only had simple food. A big bowl of soup with fresh bread. Pasta with a simple tomato sauce. But we always ate together. We sat at the small wooden table he had built for us. We talked about our day. He would tell me about a difficult piece of wood he was working on. I would tell him about the funny customers at the restaurant. We would laugh. And that simple food, shared with him, tasted better than the most expensive meal in the world. I know that now. I did not know it then. I remember our weekends. We could not afford to go to fancy places. We did not go to the movies every week or eat in restaurants. Our happiness was simple. It was free. We would walk in the big park near our apartment. We held hands. Leo loved nature. He knew the names of all the trees. He would point and say, "That is an oak tree, Megan. See how strong its branches are." He would find a small, wild flower growing in the grass. He would gently pick it and tuck it behind my ear. "A flower for my flower," he would say. And he would look at me, really look at me. His eyes were a warm, gentle brown. When he looked at me, I felt like the most special, most beautiful woman in the world. I felt seen. I felt loved. A real, deep, honest love. He was a good listener. When I came home from work, tired and sad, he would stop everything. He would sit with me. He would make me a cup of tea. "Tell me everything," he would say. And I would. I would tell him about a rude customer or a mistake I made. He would just listen. He wouldn't try to solve my problems. He would just nod and hold my hand. When I was finished, he would pull me into a hug. His hugs were strong and safe. "It's okay, Megan," he would whisper into my hair. "You are strong. Tomorrow will be a better day." And because he said it, I believed it. With him, I always felt so safe. It was not the safety of money or a big house. It was the safety of being completely loved. He remembered the small things, the details that show someone is truly paying attention. He knew I liked my coffee with a lot of milk and just a little sugar. He knew my favorite song, and he would often hum it while he worked. He knew I was terrified of spiders, and he would always be the one to gently catch them and put them outside. These small acts of love were like tiny threads. Together, they made a strong, beautiful blanket of our life together. One year for my birthday, I knew we had very little money. I told him, "Leo, please don't buy me anything. I don't need a gift. I just need you." He just smiled and kissed my forehead. On the morning of my birthday, he woke me up early. He was so excited. He held a small, wrapped box in his hands. I opened it carefully. Inside was a wooden box he had made. The wood was so smooth, and it shone in the morning light. On the lid, he had carefully carved my name, Megan. I opened the box. Nestled on a piece of soft, red velvet was a single seashell. It was a beautiful, swirled shell. I recognized it. It was from our very first walk on the beach together, a year before. "I saved it," he said softly, his eyes shining, "so you can hold it to your ear and always hear the ocean wherever we are." Tears streamed down my face. They were not tears of sadness. They were tears of pure, overwhelming joy. My heart felt so full it might burst. That small wooden box, that simple seashell, they were more precious to me than any diamond or pearl. It was a gift of memory, a gift of thought, a gift of love. We talked about our future sometimes. Our dreams were as simple and as beautiful as our life. We dreamed of one day buying a small house, not a big one, just a little house with a small garden. He wanted to grow vegetables. I wanted to plant flowers. We talked about getting a dog, a clumsy, happy dog who would make us laugh. We talked about having children one day. Leo would have made the most wonderful father. I could picture him teaching our son how to build things or reading stories to our daughter. We did not need much to be happy. We just needed each other. Our love felt so big so strong. I thought it was strong enough to face anything. But I was wrong. The problem wasn't our love. The problem was me. I was the weak one. The beginning of the end started at my job. I was a waitress at a nice, quiet restaurant downtown. It was hard work, but the tips helped us pay our bills. One evening, a man came into the restaurant alone. He was different from our usual customers. He wore a very expensive suit. It was perfectly tailored. He had a gold watch on his wrist that glittered under the lights. He looked powerful, confident. He sat at one of my tables. He was polite, but in a formal, distant way. His name was Richard. I remember his eyes. Leo's eyes were warm, like a cozy fireplace. Richard's eyes were blue, but they were a cold blue, like ice. They looked at things as if he was measuring their value. He started coming to the restaurant more often, 2 or 3 times a week. He always requested to sit in my section, at one of my tables. He was a very good tipper. He would leave a $50 bill for a $20 meal. At first, I was just thankful. The extra money made our life a little easier. I could buy better groceries. I could pay a bill without worrying. Then he started talking to me, not just ordering his food. He would ask me questions about my life. He had a smooth, confident voice. I told him I had a boyfriend. I told him about Leo, the carpenter. I said his name with pride. Richard just smiled a small, strange smile. A carpenter, he said. The way he said it made it sound like a small, unimportant thing. Like something for children. He began to plant seeds of doubt in my mind. They were clever seeds, disguised as compliments. "You are so smart, Megan," he would say while he signed his bill. "You have such grace. You belong in a better place than this." Another time he said, "You have a beautiful smile. You deserve to see the world. Paris, Rome. Have you ever been to Paris?" I had never even been out of the state. I tried to ignore his words. I loved Leo. Our life was good. It was happy. But Richard's words were like little stones in my shoe. I could feel them even when I was at home with Leo. At night, I would lie in our small, warm bed, listening to Leo's steady breathing. And I would think of Richard's words. "You deserve more." I would look around our simple room, the old dresser, the crack in the ceiling. And for the first time, it didn't feel cozy. It felt small. A terrible, ugly feeling started to grow in my heart. It was a mix of envy and greed. I started to want things I never knew I wanted. Richard asked me to have dinner with him. "Not a date," he said quickly. "Just as friends. I have some business contacts. Maybe I can help you find a better job. A job that uses your intelligence." I knew it was wrong. A cold feeling of guilt washed over me, but the voice of greed was louder. I said yes. I had to lie to Leo. It was the first time I ever truly lied to him. I told him the restaurant asked me to work a late shift. Seeing the trust in his eyes as he said, "Okay, my love, be safe," was like a knife in my heart. It felt awful. I felt cheap. Richard picked me up. He didn't come to my apartment building. I met him on the corner. He arrived in a sleek, black car that was silent and smelled of rich leather. He took me to the most expensive restaurant in the city. The kind of place with white tablecloths and waiters in tuxedos. I had only ever walked past it and stared through the window. We drank champagne. It tickled my nose. He ordered our food. I didn't even look at the menu. I couldn't understand the French words. He talked about his life. He owned a large company. He talked about business deals in other countries. He talked about his house in the city and his other house by the ocean. He made it all sound so easy, so shiny, so perfect. He made my life, my simple, happy life with Leo, sound poor and pathetic. "This could all be yours, Megan," he said, reaching across the table and taking my hand. His hand was smooth and soft. It felt strange. It didn't feel real. It wasn't like Leo's warm, rough hand that fit so perfectly in mine. I pulled my hand back slowly. My head was spinning from the champagne and the conversation. He drove me back to my neighborhood. He stopped the car a block away from my building. It looked so small and shabby next to his magnificent car. The contrast was painful. "Think about it, Megan," he said, his voice low and persuasive. "A life of struggle with a carpenter, or a life of comfort and luxury with me. The choice is yours." I got out of the car. My legs felt weak. I walked into my building and up the 3 flights of stairs. I opened the door to our apartment. Leo had waited up for me. He had fallen asleep in the old armchair with a book on his lap. He looked so peaceful, so good. I was overcome with guilt. I felt like a monster, a traitor. But the next morning, the guilt was still there, but the feeling of desire was stronger. The memory of the champagne, the fancy food, the beautiful car, it was like a poison. It made my real life seem gray and dull. Richard continued to pursue me. He sent flowers to the restaurant, not a simple bunch, a huge, extravagant bouquet. He sent a small box with a beautiful silk scarf inside. I had to hide these things from Leo. My small, honest apartment started to fill up with secrets and lies. The change in me was obvious. The easy laughter between Leo and me started to disappear. I became quiet, distant. He knew something was wrong. He was so connected to me. He could feel my sadness. "What is it, Megan?" he would ask, his kind eyes full of worry. "Talk to me. You seem so far away." I couldn't look at him. I couldn't tell him the ugly truth, that I was being tempted by a rich man, that I was thinking of leaving him. So I lied again. "I'm just tired from work," I would say. And the lies were getting easier and easier to tell. I hated the person I was becoming. Finally, after weeks of this torture, I made my decision. I made the worst, most foolish decision of my life. I chose Richard. I chose the money. I chose the easy life, or what I thought was the easy life. Now I had to tell Leo. The thought of it made me feel sick. It was the hardest thing I have ever had to do. I went to his workshop in the afternoon. I found him there, sanding a piece of wood for a child's rocking horse. The sunlight streamed through the dusty window, lighting up his focused face. He was humming our favorite song. He looked up when I came in, and he smiled. That beautiful, open, loving smile that had been the sun in my life for 2 years. Seeing that smile, knowing I was about to destroy it, shattered my heart into a million pieces. "Leo," I began. My voice was a weak, trembling thing. "We need to talk." He put down his tools. He gave me his full attention, like he always did. "Of course," he said. "What's wrong?" I told him. I stumbled over the words. I told him about Richard. I told him I wanted a different kind of life, a more secure life, an easier life. Each word I said felt like a betrayal. I watched the light go out of his eyes. The beautiful warmth was replaced by a look of shock, and then a pain so deep it took my breath away. He did not shout. He did not get angry. He did not call me names, though I deserved all of them. He just stood there, looking at me for a long moment. It felt like an eternity. Then he whispered, and his voice was broken. "I thought our love was enough. I thought we were happy." Tears were streaming down my face. "I'm sorry, Leo," I sobbed. "I'm so sorry." He took a deep breath. He looked down at his rough hands, then back at me. "I hope he makes you happy, Megan," he said, his voice barely audible. "I truly hope you find what you are looking for." Then he turned back to his workbench. He picked up his piece of sandpaper and slowly, mechanically, started sanding the rocking horse again. The conversation was over. He had dismissed me from his life with those quiet, heartbreaking words. I stood there for another minute, crying, hoping he would turn around, hoping he would fight for me. But he didn't. And why should he? I was the one throwing everything away. So I left. I turned my back on him. I walked out of the workshop. I walked away from the best man I have ever known. I walked away from true love. And I walked toward my gilded cage. 3 months after I left Leo, I married Richard. The wedding was a huge, magnificent event. There were hundreds of guests, none of whom I knew. I wore a white designer gown that cost more than Leo's salary for an entire year. Everything looked perfect. It was like a scene from a movie, a fairy tale. I smiled for all the cameras. I told myself I was happy. I repeated it in my head over and over again, hoping I would start to believe it. We moved into Richard's house. It wasn't a house. It was a mansion. It had so many rooms I would get lost. Everything was white or beige or glass. The carpets were so white I was afraid to walk on them. The furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. It was stunningly beautiful, and it was completely cold. There was no warmth, no personality, no soul. It wasn't a home. It was a showroom. Richard was generous with his money. He gave me a credit card with no limit on it. "Buy whatever you want," he said. redecorate the house, buy yourself clothes, enjoy yourself. He said it like he was giving a task to an employee. So I tried to enjoy myself. I bought things, lots of things. I bought expensive clothes I had no place to wear. I bought jewelry that felt heavy and cold on my skin. I bought paintings for the big, empty walls. For a short time, it was a distraction. It felt like playing a game, the game of being a rich woman. But the excitement faded very quickly. The new dress didn't make me feel beautiful. The diamond necklace didn't make me feel cherished. The things did not make me happy. They just filled the empty space with more empty things. My new life was very lonely. Richard was always working. That was his real love, his business. He left the house before I woke up. He came home very late at night, long after I had eaten dinner alone. We didn't eat together at a small kitchen table. I ate alone at a giant, polished dining table that could seat 20 people. The silence in that room was the loudest thing I had ever heard. It was so different from the comfortable, happy quiet I had sometimes shared with Leo. This was an empty silence, a lonely silence. It pressed down on me. When Richard was home, he wasn't really there. He was always on his phone, typing furiously. Or he was on a conference call. Or he was talking about money, stocks, and business deals. He never asked about my day. He never asked about my feelings. And I soon learned he didn't want to hear about them. One afternoon, I was feeling particularly sad. I missed Leo. I missed my old life. I tried to talk to Richard. "I'm feeling a bit down today," I said softly. He didn't look up from his laptop. "Go buy yourself a new purse," he said. "That always cheers women up." He wasn't trying to be cruel. He just genuinely did not understand. He thought money could fix any problem. He could not offer real comfort. He did not know how. I remember one time I got sick. I had a high fever, and I felt awful. I called him at his office. "Richard, I'm not feeling well," I said, my voice weak. "I have a fever." "Have you called the doctor?" he asked, his voice sounding impatient. "I'll have my assistant make an appointment for you. I'm in the middle of a meeting." Then he hung up. I lay in our huge, cold, king-sized bed alone all day. I cried and cried. My memory, which is now my enemy, showed me a different picture. I remembered a time I had the flu when I was with Leo. He canceled his work for the day. He insisted. He stayed home to take care of me. He made me his special vegetable soup. He put a cool cloth on my forehead. He read to me from my favorite book until I fell asleep. He held my hand. He made me feel safe, cared for, loved. Richard gave me a life of material comfort, but he could not give me a moment of human comfort. I had no real friends in this new life. Richard's friends were all like him. The men talked about business. The women talked about their new cars, their plastic surgeons, and their expensive holidays. They looked at the brand of my dress before they looked at my face. Their smiles never reached their eyes. They were as fake as my own smile. I missed my old friends. I missed my mother. But when I talked to them on the phone, they couldn't understand my sadness. "Megan, you are so lucky," my mother would say. "You don't have to worry about anything." How could I tell her that I worried all the time? I worried that my soul was dying. I was living in a beautiful, golden cage. I had all the food and water I needed, but I couldn't fly. One day, the regret became too much to bear. I did a stupid, desperate thing. I drove to our old neighborhood. I parked down the street from our old apartment building. I just sat in my expensive car and stared up at the window of our old apartment. A light was on. I saw a family inside. A man, a woman, a small child. They were laughing. It hurt so much. Then I drove to Leo's old workshop. It was empty. The windows were dark. There was a big sign on the door, "For rent." He was gone. Of course he was gone. He had moved on. He had taken his good, kind heart and his beautiful smile somewhere else. And I was left here, in my silent mansion, with nothing but my choices. Now I am 30 years old. I have been married to Richard for 5 years. 5 long, empty years. I live in this big, beautiful house. I have closets full of clothes I don't wear, and a jewelry box full of diamonds that give no light. I have everything a woman could supposedly want, but I have nothing that I truly need. I do not have laughter that comes from the belly. I do not have the warmth of a true companion. I do not have a hand to hold when I am scared in the middle of the night. I do not have love. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is completely silent, I go to my closet. In the very back, hidden behind my designer handbags, is a small, old shoebox. Inside is my only real treasure. It is the little wooden box Leo made for me on my birthday. I take it out. I run my fingers over my name carved in the wood. I open it and look at the simple seashell inside. I hold it in my hands and I close my eyes. I try to remember his smile, his gentle touch, his soft heart, his real, true love. And then I cry. I cry for the foolish, greedy girl I was. The girl who threw away a real diamond for a piece of shiny, worthless glass. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I chose money over love. And now I am paying the price for that choice every single day. This easy life is the hardest life I have ever lived. My heart is so heavy with regret. It is a constant ache that never goes away. I look at myself in the mirror. I see a sad woman. Her eyes are empty. She is dressed in expensive clothes, but she looks poor. She is spiritually poor. This is not the life I dreamed of. This is a prison I carefully built for myself, piece by piece. So if you are listening to my story, please learn from my terrible mistake. Money is not everything. It is a tool, but it is not happiness. It can buy you a house, but it cannot buy you a home. A home is made of love and laughter, not marble and glass. Money can buy you a fancy bed, but it cannot buy you peaceful sleep. It can buy you fine food, but it cannot buy you appetite or good company. Do not let the sparkle of wealth blind you to what is real. A good and kind heart is the most valuable thing in the entire world. Kindness is the greatest treasure a person can have. If you are lucky enough to find someone who loves you, who truly sees you for who you are, who makes you laugh and holds you when you cry, hold on to them. Hold on to them with both hands and never let go. Do not make my mistake. Do not trade something real for something fake. Choose love. Always, always choose love. It is the only thing that is real in this world. It is the only thing that truly matters in the end. My name is Megan, and this is my story of regret. I hope that for you, it can be a story of learning. Do not throw away your happiness. Keep going and choose wisely.